Hello everyone, this is part 2 of What If Naruto Fell in Love with Kurenai, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Later that night, Kurenai was laying in bed unable to sleep when she saw a flash of thunder in the night sky and heard the thunder as it began to rain hard. She looked at the rain and thought, this storm seems to be my emotions. I feel like at any moment my thoughts are going to snap. I can't seem to get the image of him holding his foot over the edge of the cliff out of my head. Is he really that close to his limit, and if so, what can be done to save him? Her memory flashed back. Naruto turned around and walked to the edge of the cliff backwards and closed his eyes and said, I live my life from this day forward with no regret. I live my life as if it is my last day alive, for one single step is all that is saving me from death. One step backwards and I shall fall to my eternal darkness, and one step forward moves me away from the edge. My life from this point will show me if my life is to move a step forward to safer ground or a step back to death. The people I meet and know in this world will be the ones who control my feet. Will they save me or doom me? As he held his foot over the edge of the cliff, Kurenai sat up in her bed and thought, do I save him or do I doom him? Her mind flashed back again. The third said, oh, and one more thing. Naruto never knew your name, and he did not do that for you because he was wanting some kind of reward, so don't feel you need to do anything for him. H is not expecting it anyways. Kurenai walked to look out the window and thought, he does things for others never expecting a reward for it. His life is filled with pain and betrayal, and he does everything he can to make others happy. Her mind showed another memory. Naruto slowly opened his eyes and said, are you an angel? As he saw Kurenai. Kurenai said, no Naruto, I'm not. Hold on, the Hokage is bringing help. Naruto said, oh, I thought you were an angel to save me from my pain. As he closed his eyes, Ajin passing back out. Kurenai saw a flash of lightning in the sky, Ajin hitting in the woods, and she came to a decision. One that would change her life. She turned and got dressed and went toward the door. Anko came out of her room to see what the noise was and asked, what's going on, Kurenai? Kurenai turned to Anko and said, I need you to do me a favor. Anko said, sure, but this late. It's like 1 a.m. Kurenai said, yes, I need you to fix the bed in the guest bedroom for me. I will explain later, but I need to see someone right now. Anko blinked and said, oh. Okay. This is not like you, but alright. As she turned and walked to the guest room, Kurenai pulled out her rain gear and left quickly. 20 minutes later, Kurenai found the tree she knew Naruto had hidden earlier and said, Naruto, can you hear me? She waited a moment and heard nothing and said, Naruto, it's me, Kurenai. I know you're hiding in that tree. Grab your things and come with me. Silence, Ajin, and she had a tick on her forehead and said, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, get your ass out here this instant. A voice asked, how do you know that name? In a shaky voice. Kurenai said, I will tell you once we get to my place. It is raining bad out here and you should not be sleeping in the woods in this weather. Please trust me. A few moments of silence was her answer, and she said, I want to move your feet away from the edge. Naruto was listening to this and sighed as he slowly climbed out of the tree he was hiding in, and Kurenai offered her hand to him and he took it to stand up, and he grabbed his travel bag. She placed her hand on his shoulder and used Shushin to appear at her house, and she said, come on inside. As she opened the door, Anko was sitting on the couch and Kurenai walked in with Naruto following her, and she said, take your shoes off and go down the hall there to the second door on the right. It's the restroom. I want you to take a shower and put some doctor. All your cloths are soaked, aren't they? Naruto looked at her and said nothing, and she sighed and said, right, well, my bathrob's on the back of the door. After you're done, put that on and place your cloths outside the door. I will wash them and dry them for you. Naruto said, why are you doing this, and you still have to answer how you know that? Kurenai said, I will tell you after you get out, now go. I need to talk with my roommate a few minutes. As she put her rain gear away, Naruto sighed as he followed her orders and went to the bathroom and started to take a shower after putting his cloths outside the door. As Naruto left the room, Anko raised an eyebrow, and when they heard the door shut, she asked, "So what's up, little Kurenai?" Kurenai growled and said, "I thought I told you not to call me that." Anko hugged her and said, "I know, but it's not often that my little girl brings home a boy to sleep over." She then does a fake sniff like she was crying and said as she wiped fake tears away, "My little girl is growing up." Kurenai hit her in the arm and Anko snorts and said, "So what the gaki really doing here?" Kurenai said, "H's moving in." Anko raised an eyebrow and said, "Really, and why is that?" "I mean, it's not like you to bring home strays." Kurenai sighed and said, "It's complicated." A voice from behind them asked, "And why is it complicated?" Making both women turn, and Anko burst out laughing as Naruto stood there in a pink bathrobe and he had a tick appear on his head. Naruto said, "That's it, I'm leaving," as he went to grab his cloths when Kurenai put her hand on his shoulder and said, "No, you're not. Sit down." Naruto looked at her annoyed and said, "Why?" Kurenai instantly did the most devastating jutsu any man can face. The dreaded puppy I know jutsu, and she said in a pouty voice, "Because I want to talk to you." Naruto thought, must resist, can't fall for, damn it, as he sighed and walked back to where Anko was sitting and sat down in a chair with his arms crossed. Kurenai smiled and said, "Good, now as for why you are here, Naruto. I want you to first promise something." Naruto blinked and asked, "Why?" Kurenai said, "The one thing I know for sure about you is that you always keep your promises. Anyone who has taken the time to know anything about you can verify that, so I want you to promise while you are in this house to speak only the truth, and you will not keep any secrets from me or Anko here." Anko said, "And why am I in this? H is your boy toy," in an annoyed voice. Kurenai said, "Because you and I already have that rule, and when you both have a lot in common, so deal with it. It's non-negotiable." Naruto blinked and said, "You're not my mother, so don't talk to me like I'm a little child." Anko said, "I hate to admit it, Gaki, but I agree with you. We're not little children, and for your info, the way Shush is acting now is not a mother speech but a wife speech. Mothers don't negotiate deals like making you promise things, they just flat out order. Wives do negotiate though," with a smirk as Naruto and Kurenai both flushed red. Kurenai said, "I'm not his wife." Anko laughed and said, "I know, I was just teasing. Anyways, Gaki, you might as well agree with whatever Shush is about to say. The only time I see her like this, she won't budge." Naruto said, "So you want me to promise to tell the truth to you and her in this house? Why should I do this, and what do I gain by doing this?" "I mean, you want me to do something that I may not like or even hate, and you have not told me why you even care for me to promise, why you came and got me tonight along with countless other things," as he looked at Kurenai. Anko looked at Naruto and said, "Chill, kid. You don't have to be hostile with Kurenai here. I'm sure she has her reasons." Naruto looked at Anko and said, "Sorry, but I don't trust that easily. I have been onto many times to just go on blind faith. Especially with what she said to get me to come here tonight. You want my promise, give me some reason I should." Anko was about to say something when Kurenai said, "When I was around 13 years old, I had just graduated from the academy." Anko shot Kurenai a look and said, "You're going to tell him about that?" Kurenai said, "Yes, you will know why in a moment, Anko, so hold anything you're going to say until I'm done. Please." As she looked at Anko with pleading eyes. Anko sighed and nods, and Naruto said, "What does this have to do with anything?" Anko slapped him upside the head and said, "Shut it, Gaki. What's she trying to tell you is something only those she trusts with even know about, so you better show her some respect and listen to her, or I will make you suffer." Naruto was about to say something when Kurenai said, "Relax, Anko. Anyways, as I was saying, I had just graduated and I was invited to a party by one of my classmates. I went there and was tricked into drinking some sake. I did not know it, but the guy put a drug in my drink to make me pass out." Naruto blinked and said, "Was the guy who gave you a drink a council member's son?" Anko blinked and looked at Naruto with narrowed eyes, and Kurenai said, "Yes. I take it you know what happened then?" Naruto said, "Yeah, I remember all right. I had the S beat out of me by 10 ninja that night and was cut from groin to end for my actions that day," in a solemn tone. Anko held up her hand and said, "Hold on, wait a moment. What the hell are you both talking about? What actions did you take, kid?" as she looked between Kurenai and Naruto. Kurenai said, "Naruto here was the one who saved me that day, Anko. Naruto looked down and said, I understand. I'm sorry but I must be going. As he got up and started to grab his wet cloths and put them back on. Kurenai asked, why? As she got up. Naruto said, the day you saved me when I was attacked in the woods. You did it out of pity and guilt. That's why you came out there tonight and found me. Now that I think about it, the only way you could have said what you said earlier was that you listened to me talk on the mountain to myself. You're doing this out of pity for me saving you that day. I don't want pity or anything for that matter. Thank you for the shower and a few minutes of shelter but I must be going. As he walked out of the bathroom which he had left open to talk and change. He had just about made it to the door when Kurenai grabbed him by the arm and spun him around and said, is that what you think? That I simply asked you to come here for pity. Naruto looked away from her and she said, look at me. Naruto ignored her and she grabbed his face and put it where he had no choice but to look at her and she said, look at me when I talk to you Naruto. Naruto said, why? Why are you doing this? I mean if you want me to say thank you for saving me then fine. Thank you. If you want to say thanks for me saving you. It's accepted. You are free to do as you want. I hold no grudge or favor over your head. Now let me go, as he tried to get his arm free of her hand. Kurenai held on tighter and said, no. Naruto tried to jerk his arm free Ajin with force but Kurenai said, I'm not letting you go. I'm not letting you head back to your hell alone. You think I am doing this for pity or because of my own consents? You're wrong. I'm a ninja. I learned to ignore it a long time ago and I don't pity you. You think you're the only one who knows the pain of being rejected. Anko here had it almost as bad as you did thanks to her sensei who turned traitor. I had it bad because of that day you saved me as well as being friends with Anko. I also had it bad because I never knew who my father was. My mother was a ninja and she had to sleep with someone to get close enough to a target to finish a mission. I was born not of love or care but of damn duty. You think that you're the only one with a style life. I admit you had to deal with it worse than most but you're not the only one with a bad life. Anko watched as Kurenai got right in Naruto's face and thought, well this is interesting, wonder what lit the fire in her belly. Naruto looked at her and said, then why do you care about the demon child? Why did you invite me here and told her I was moving in her? Kurenai said, do I have to have a reason to want to help you? Naruto blinked and said, well, I never met someone who did something for nothing before. Kurenai said, really, then why did you save me back then? Naruto said, because I don't like perverts. Kurenai said, but you saved me. You didn't have to so why go out of your way to help me? Did you do it because you wanted something in return? Naruto said, of course not. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Kurenai said, and that's why I want to help you. Because it's the right thing to do. Anko thought, bull s. You're both fed up if you both believe that. I can tell just by looking you both have something else. Naruto sighed and said, look, I don't want to see you and Anko here get into trouble because of me. If I stayed here then you and her would both be. He was stopped by a finger on his lips from Kurenai. Kurenai said, I don't give a damn about what people think so stop worrying about us. Think about yourself once. Naruto sighed and said, I'm not going to be able to talk you out of this am I? Anko said, I already told you Gaki, when shushes like this you might as well give up. Naruto nods and said, fine. I will stay here and promise to tell you and her the truth about things but I don't want anyone to know I am here. I will use a henge to come and go so others won't find out. A male voice that made Naruto go wide-eyed said, that's really noble of you Naruto, making everyone turn and see a man walk out of Anko's bedroom. Naruto blinked looking around and said, Iruka-sensei. What are you doing here? Kurenai blushed and asked, how long have you been here Iruka? Iruka said, since you left in the rain. Anko called me over because she was worried about you. So tell me, what has the idiot here done to attract your attention? Naruto said, nothing Iruka-sensei, as he rubbed the back of his head smiling sheepishly. Kurenai said in a harsh tone, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, what have we just agreed on? Everyone blinked and Iruka asked, Namikaze, what are you talking about Kurenai? Naruto sighed and said, remember the night I stole the scroll Iruka-sensei? Iruka nods and Naruto said, inside the scroll was my name and I accidentally put some blood on it and a scroll popped out. It was from my father. Anko said, so your dad was named Namikaze, and he had a scroll put in the forbidden scroll for you. Who was he if you don't mind me asking? Everyone looked at Anko and Iruka said, Namikaze was the name of the Yondaime Hokage, making Anko go wide-eye. She looked at Naruto and said, you the Yondaime son. No wonder he used you. Naruto sighed and said, yeah. Anyways until today no one knew I knew who he was and I was not planning on telling anyone. Iruka said, so the Hokage does not know. You should have told him Naruto. Naruto eyes darkened a moment and said, and he should have told me about Kyuubi before I was nearly killed by Mizuki team. Everyone in this damn village has kept secrets about me my entire life. The Kyuubi, my father, my mother, my other relatives. Hell I would not be surprised if my name is not really Naruto or that I am in fact a girl under some extremely powerful genjutsu. Hell with the side effect of my no jutsu I would not be surprised if that was true. I mean my chakra control sucks so bad that I can't even detect a damn genjutsu if it slapped me upside the head. Hell this all could be one as far as I know. Do you have any idea what it's like to find out your entire life is a lie? That's why I decided for once in my life I was keeping a secret for myself. If the old man does not trust me enough with the truth about my own damn life, why should I tell him the truth? As he let his voice rise as he ranted more and more. Everyone was quiet a moment and Iruka sighed and said, I guess you're right about not, but what do you mean by your mother and other relatives? Kurenai placed her hand on Naruto's shoulder and said, that's something I want to know. Why do you act that way toward your cousin? Naruto closed his eyes and said, it's the only way I can protect her and also be in her life. Her mom won't let her come near me normally and has passed her hate down to her. At first I did it to spite her mom, but after I saw her getting picked on by bullies I could not sit by and do nothing, so I decided to help her and things went from there. By the time we entered the academy I had came up with the idea to pretend to like her so that way she could not ignore me and I could be in her life, and no matter what her mother said she would not be able to keep me away. After all, the one thing I learned for sure in the academy is fangirls can get away with stalking their objective and being involved in their lives, so why the hell not act like a fanboy to be close to my cousin? Iruka blinked and said, so you're related to Sakura. Naruto chuckled and said, yeep, why do you think I was so excited to be on her team the day the teams were announced? Iruka rubbed his temples and said, so, you're the son of the Yondaime and you related to Sakura. How are you related to her if you don't mind me asking? Kurenai said, Naruto's mother was the sister to Sakura's father, making everyone look at her. She then sighed and said, after I heard you talking on your dad's head today I went to talk to the Hokage about finding out about if you really were related, Kakashi playing favorites, and about the incident with the two mercs. Iruka looked at Naruto and said, what incident Naruto? You haven't told me about your mission. Naruto said, RC rank turned A rank and S happened. I don't want to talk about it. Kurenai said, you need to Naruto. I mean nobody here will judge you different and this is something you need to get off your chest. I remember when I went through it. Have some faith in us. Naruto smiled and looked down and said, I. Iruka walked over to Naruto and knelt in front of him and said, you what Naruto? Got captured, screwed up the mission, let the enemy get away. What? Naruto looked up with tears in his eyes and said, I killed them, as he burst into tears. Kurenai pulled him into a hug as he cried and Iruka looked at her and she nodded toward Anko and he stood up and moved over to Anko. Kurenai made shushing noises and said, it's alright Naruto. I know how you feel but you did it to save that boy and his mom. If you had not done it then they would have killed them and then maybe later your team or other innocent people. King is not easy but it's a part of what we are and what we must do. You don't have to get used to it. In fact if you ever do you should just quit being a ninja then. As long as you feel the guilt and sorrow over it that means you're human. Naruto listened to her as he cried and after a few minutes he finally stopped and she said, if you want to talk about it ever or anything the three of us will be willing to do anything we can to help. Oh. Okay. Naruto nods and Iruka asked, did Kakashi talk to you about it Naruto? Naruto looked down and said, he doesn't even know. The only other person who knows here in the village is the old man. I don't want anyone finding out because they will say that it shows I really am a demon, in a sad voice. Kurenai said, "You're no demon, Naruto." Naruto smiled a small smile and Anko asked, "Hey Gaki, what did you mean when you said the side effect to your C no jutsu?" "I mean from what Iruka-kun has told me it's just a very good henge." Naruto wiped the last of the tears away and said in an exciting voice, "Actually it's more than that. The truth is it's not an actual henge. It's real," making everyone blink and look at him. Kurenai asked, "What do you mean real, Naruto?" Naruto rubbed his head sheepishly and said, "Well, when I first created it I was trying to find a way into the women's hot springs," making Kurenai glare at him. Naruto put his hands in front of him and said, "Wait, let me explain," as he felt the key coming from Kurenai. She said, "You have better hope it's a good reason or you will lose something very valuable to you," as she glared at him. Naruto said, "Okay, you see I had been following Sakura around and it was right after the Uchiha the day Sasuke had returned to the academy. Sakura had tried to ask him out that day and he punched her in the stomach and called her a B before he walked away because she bragged how strong he must be to be able to stand up to the guy who killed his family, so I followed her and Ino to the hot springs but I could not follow them inside to see if she was okay or not, and since she coughed up blood I thought she needed to go to the hospital, so I tried to sneak in but was caught and threw out, and we had just started talking about henges in the academy, so I decided I would try and mimic what I saw and instructed her, but I messed up the hand signs and actually created my C no jutsu. However, by the time I got it good enough to fool people and went inside, the hot spring had already closed. I remember a white-haired old man coming out the hot spring talking about lovely snake women and wondering if she was able to use some long tongue technique and about putting her in some book. Anyways, he saw me in my female form and came over to me and asked me to pose for his next book. He then said something about being some Mount Sage Toad or something like that, and I did what I do best and used my feet to kick him for being a pervert in the nuts. Anko cracked her knuckles and asked, "Do you know who the woman he was talking about was, Gaki?" Naruto said, "No, not really. As I said, the hot spring had already closed and I just repeated what he said." "Why? Do you know who it was? If so, you should tell her she may be in some book," as he looked at her. Anko said, "Oh, I will tell her all right, and if I see that perverted frog bastard Ajan I will show him why he should not talk about women like that." Iruka said, "So anyways Naruto, what exactly are the side effects you mentioned?" Naruto chuckled and said, "Well, the thing is I did not know how to cancel it after I had put it on, and so I was stuck as a woman for about 2 weeks. If you remember, I had missed school during that time. I was embarrassed about it and then I finally ran out of food in my apartment, so I had to go to the store. I did not know the real different things about women and men back then, so I don't know how it happened, but when I was in the store this old woman grabbed me and led me to the back of her store and told me I had a problem I needed to fix. I was confused and it showed, and she told me my mother needed to talk to me about womanhood. I told her I did not have a mom and she then sat me down and gave me an hour lecture on the details of the female body. I swear I still have nightmares. Especially of tampons." He shivers at this point and everyone sweet drops. Kurenai said, "So you mean that you wound up having a period?" as she tried to suppress a snicker. Naruto saw this and growled and said, "It's not funny, damn it. Do you have any idea what it was like for a 9-year-old boy who suddenly found himself as a girl runs into the problem of having a period with a demented old woman who swears that the S is best in the middle of the time between periods, and how bulky a maxi pad is or what a damn tampon feels like? I swear that woman would not let me leave until I had showed her I could use the products perfectly. Not to mention all the damn mood swings and cravings. Don't get me started. I swear if I had to live my life as a woman I would kill myself. I mean, how do you deal with the urges?" Iruka looked confused and Anko said, "Naru-chan, we are so going to have a long talk," with a gleam in her eyes. Kurenai blinked and said, "Damn, you really did turn into a woman, didn't you?" Naruto said, "No, Sherlock. Want me to do the jutsu now? I think I have a tampon in my gear I can slap you upside the head with if you don't believe me." Anko snorted and burst out laughing and said, "Why the hell do you still have them if you did that back then?" Naruto scratched the back of his head and said, I kind of get stuff at regular price when I use the jutsu. I don't do like Konohamaru does and try to get free meals and things with it, but I do like to be able to buy groceries at regular price without being out of date, as he looked down. Everyone sobered up at that and Kurenai sighed and said, well anyways. You got anything else you want to say? We each will keep your secrets and not even tell the Hokage if you want. Iruka said, if you want when you come here just henge into me because I come here all the time to see Anko so people won't notice too much. I will just use Shushin to come so people won't see two of us at the door. Naruto said, hey, why don't you teach me Shushin instead? Kurenai said, you don't have the control yet. You said it yourself that your control is not good, so you will have to work on it and learn the leaf balancing, water walking, and kunai balancing before you can learn it. Naruto frowns and said, so how do I do them? I mean I can do the tree climbing but I don't know the others. Iruka walked over to a couch cushion and pulled out a feather and said, you should have listened in the academy when I tried to teach this to you. All you have to do is use your chakra to make this feather or a leaf float above your head. Once you get that down, try it in your hands and then your feet. Try to make it where you can keep it balanced and spin it at each spot. If you get them down before you move on, try combining tree and leaf exercise together. Well, it's late so I must be going. See you later, as he kissed Anko and shushined away. Naruto sighed and said, so where am I to stay? Kurenai said, follow me, as she led him to the end of the hall. She opened the door and said, this will be your room from now on. Naruto nods and asked, how much do I owe you for rent? Kurenai blinked, having not thought of this, and said, how much do you pay now? Naruto said, 200 a week, making both women gape, and Anko said, what the hell? How can they charge you that much? Is that including utilities? Naruto said, no, that is just my apartment. My lights run 150 a week, my water 100 a week. I don't have gas or hot water and I am responsible for all my own upkeep. Kurenai's eyes darkened and she said, how can you afford that much, Naruto? Naruto said, before I graduated I received a allowance from the Hokage who paid the bills, but since I graduated H is not allowed to any more thanks to the council, and since the landlord said that his original contract was with the old man and now that I am taking over we had to renegotiate and he set those prices. It was either to accept or live on the street. Anko asked, how do you pay that much? I mean you're only a genin. Naruto looked away and said, well, the truth is I sort of don't. All my pay from missions is taken in advance to pay them except for 10, and the rest of the balance I owe is put on the ledger as debt, so when I get the pay for the A rank it will go to pay off the back payment. That's why I begged for a higher ranked mission in the first place, as he looked down. Kurenai said, you will split the utilities by 1 out of 3, and as for rent you just have to pay 100 a month. Anko and I own this place and we just act like we have rent anyway, so that way if there is ever some repair like roof or windows we have money to fix them. So all you have to do is help cut down on utilities as much as you can and you will only have to pay 1 out of 3 of the total utilities each month. Deal. Naruto was wide-eyed and said, deal, but I still have my back payment I have to pay for my old place plus the money I owe the Ayami and her dad who own the ramen stand for the meals they gave me. Anko said, you should try dango. It's all I eat. Kurenai said, no, he needs a more balanced diet. Naruto said, I hear this argument all the time, so can we just skip it for tonight? I'm a little tired. I do eat other things than ramen when I can. Kurenai looked at the clock and said, well, it is 3:30, so yeah, let's get some sleep. Good night both of you. Anko said, yeah, good night Kurenai, stray, as she turned and went toward her room. Naruto said, I am no stray chicken ass there. Both women looked at him and Anko asked, what did you call me? Naruto said, chicken ass there. You said you only eat dango, and from what I have seen dango is a chicken getting a stick shoved up its ass and coming out its head, and they say you are what you eat. My name is Naruto, so of course I will eat ramen, but you Anko, you're eating dango who? As he grabbed his tea as a senbon hit him in the en and Naruto was gagging and fell to the floor. Kurenai ran to him and pulled the senbon out and said, you did not have to put him out like that. Anko smiled and said, I love your boyfriend Kure-chan. He can talk back with the best of them. First time I seen anyone who had the balls to talk to me about my food, as she laughed walking away to her room. Naruto groaned as Kurenai picked him up and carried him to his bed, and as she sat him down she tried to get back up and found he had his arms wrapped around her. Kurenai said, "OS," as she tried to get free but found Naruto only held on tighter. After 10 minutes she sighed and laid down next to him and thought, this is going to be bad in the morning, as she tried to go to sleep. The next morning when Naruto woke up he found himself unable to move. He slowly opened his eyes and saw Kurenai laying on his chest and had both her legs wrapped around one of his and her hand on his sea while the other was under him. Naruto thought, OS, OS, OS. I need to get up. I got to piss bad and her hand's not helping. Wait, what the hell is she doing in this bed with me and where am I? Why is Kurenai here? Naruto then remembered the night before and he said, oh yeah, I forgot I am supposed to live here now. A flash of light caught his attention and Anko was standing in his doorway and waving a picture and said, oh how sweet. My little girl's first night with a boy. Now I hope you used protection, kid. Naruto growled and tried to move and Kurenai muttered, so warm, as she slowly moved closer into Naruto. Anko took another picture and Kurenai slowly opened her eyes and froze and said, whoever the hell you are, you better have a good reason for being in my bed. Naruto thought, OS, shush is going to kill me, what do I say to keep her from killing me? And a flash of Kakashi appeared in his head and he said, I got lost on the road of life, as he tried to think of something to get him out of trouble. Anko burst out laughing so hard she had to hold her side as Kurenai quickly flew out of bed looking around and at her cloths and said, oh thank God it's you Naruto-kun, I thought you were Kakashi. Anko who was still laughing said, so it's kun now Kurenai. Kurenai blinked and saw Naruto froze in his spot as he tried to get up and looked at her and she said, sorry Naruto. I did not mean to say kun. I guess this all was so awkward I did not know what to say, as she was beet red as Anko held up 2 pictures. Naruto said, it's okay Tenshi, chicken there. Anko threw a kunai at him and as it cut his cheek and licked the blood off his face but Naruto disappeared in a puff of smoke and Anko found herself holding a kunai at the end of Iruka. Iruka said, now Anko, why are you attacking me? Anko stepped back and Iruka went up in a puff of smoke and Naruto was there and Kurenai burst out laughing and said, I can't believe he tricked you Anko with a henge. Anko said, whatever, anyways I just came to tell you breakfast is ready, as she left and said, oh and Foxy-chan, you do know they say angels are real demons in bed, especially with wood like that, as she laughed at the red face of both Naruto and Kurenai as they looked at Naruto. Naruto blushed and quickly ran to the bathroom and Kurenai shook her head and thought, things are going to get different now. When Naruto walked into the kitchen he saw Iruka sitting at the table eating some breakfast and there was several plates there with bacon and eggs and toast. Anko was drinking some coffee beside Iruka and he said, sit on down. Kurenai will be here in a moment. Naruto sat down and said, what are you doing here this morning Iruka-sensei? Kurenai who walked in said, he comes over for breakfast nearly every morning Naruto. Naruto nods and said, so how do you know each other if you don't mind me asking? Kurenai said, Iruka was on my genin team and since I hung out with Anko she met him and they slowly hit it off though neither talk about it. Naruto nods and said, well thank God, the rest of the guys thought Iruka-sensei was gay, making Iruka spit out his orange juice as both Anko and Kurenai laughed. Iruka quickly wiped his mouth and looked at Naruto and said, why do you say that Naruto? Naruto said, well we never saw you with any woman and that one lady who asked you out you turned down. Then you always had me and the other guys stay after school all the time and never made any girls stay so we sort of thought you either were gay or an old maid. Personally I thought you were bi. Anko snickered and said, no, the only old maid here would be little Kure-chan here. Kurenai growled and Naruto put his hand up and said, no need to get mad Kurenai-sensei. I'm sure you just chose to find someone you love first instead of being some fangirl and you're classy enough not to just jump any guy who seems popular like some woman. I know you will find someone someday. Everyone looked at him as he picked up a bite of eggs and he asked, what, as he ate it. Kurenai who blushed a little said, well thank you Naruto. That was nice of you to say and very true. I did decide to find someone I love first but how did you know that I am not seeing anyone right now? Naruto scratched the back of his head and said, I just do, as he blushed and looked away. Anko said, oh no you don't. The kitchen is part of this house and you have to tell the truth, so how do you know Shush is not seeing anyone? Naruto said, well. Kurenai said, I'm waiting. Naruto sighed and said, the truth is I know because of Konohamaru. Everyone blinked and Iruka asked, what does Konohamaru have to do with anything? Naruto said, well, he heard me talking to his grandfather one day and I asked who you were and he asked his uncle Asuma all the time since then, and he said if I have a reason to know who you are then he should also, since he sees me as his eternal rival for wanting to be Hokage, so he asked me all the time why I want to know you, and since I never tell him he tells me what he knows, seeing if he can guess it, and I just remain silent. So I heard about your nickname as the Ice Queen of Konoha. Personally I think that TLE should go to Sasuke, but that's my opinion, as he took another bite. Kurenai said, so why did you really want to know who I was? Naruto said, curiosity. I mean, I wanted to know why you saved me that day. Now I know, at least I think I know. I'm not for sure though. I'm not real used to people doing things for others without reasons, as he finishes eating. Kurenai said, well, you can get used to it from now on. I mean, you don't have to worry about the rest of the village here. Well, I hate to say it, but I must be getting to my team. Have a great day everyone, as she got up and left with Shushin. Iruka said, I must also get going. If not, those kids will destroy my class. Remember what I told you about that leaf exercise, Naruto, and remember, just because you know the leaf exercise now does not mean you should not still use it. It will help you to keep getting better if you keep practicing, so see you later and good luck, as he left after giving Anko a kiss. Anko looked at Naruto, who looked at her, and she said, so Gaki, how good are you? Naruto said, okay I guess. I know Henge, replacement, Kijibunshin, See no Jutsu, Harem Jutsu, 1000 Years of Death, Cloak of Invisibility and Haration. Anko dropped her sake she had now poured and said, show me. Naruto sighed as he reached into his weapon pouch and threw it at the wall behind him, and he disappeared and reappeared with a yellow flash. He sighed and bit his thumb and put a drop of blood on the seal and then channeled chakra into the seal before he put it back and said, I only have 2 kunais that have the seal on it though, since I don't want people to know I can do it. I'm not supposed to know who my dad is. Anko nods and said, so you have 2 E rank jutsu, an A rank kinjutsu jutsu, a C rank taijutsu, a D rank genjutsu, and a S rank jutsu with 2 unknown rank jutsu. Naruto said, A and S rank. Anko blinked and said, huh. Naruto sighed and said, the old man put the C no jutsu as a rank kinjutsu and the harem jutsu as an S rank kinjutsu, both in the Forbidden Scrolls, since I can knock out nearly any male with it as long as they are not gay. Anko nods and said, so how's your taijutsu? Naruto said, it sucks. Nobody would show me the proper katas and I have had to learn to make my own with my Kijibunshin's attacking me, but even then it's not that good. I mostly have to react to their attacks though. Anko narrowed her eyes and said, do me a favor, make a Kijibunshin. Naruto looked confused but made one, and Anko smiled and said, okay, leave the room and go to the front door, but leave your Kijibunshin here. I want to show you something. Naruto looked confused but left the room, and she looked at the Kijibunshin and said when he was away, hey Bunshin, tell the Gaki that his fly's open and to come back in here, as she punched him making it dispel. Naruto looked down and saw his fly was not open and walked back in and said, hey, my fly's not open. Anko said, I never said it was. Naruto said, yes you did, you told me wait a moment. Anko smiled and said, that's the second reason the Kijibunshin is a kinjutsu kid. Anything they learn you learn, but it only works on information. If your chakra control sucks as much as you said, then use that to help your training of it. Well, I got to go. See you Gaki, as she got up and started to leave. She stopped and said, and one more thing kid. Kurenai is like a sister to me. I don't know what is going on with you both, but if you hurt her in any way or take her for granted I will K you, as she left. Naruto looked where she was and hanged himself into Iruka and left the house, taking note of where it was. He then went to his team's training ground and saw Sakura sitting on the bridge with Sasuke, and he walked past both of them and went to the end of the bridge and thought, might as well get some training done. He then created some Kijibunshins and ran up the tree and grabbed some leaves along with the Kijibunshins. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and copied the jutsu and smirked and said, what are you doing Dobe? Naruto said, just working on tree climbing. I want to make sure I got it down good enough. Sasuke saw the leaf in his hand and asked, "What's with the leaf?" Sakura said, "That's the Academy chakra control exercise. Remember Sasuke-kun? Iruka-sensei showed it to us," as she grabbed one of the leaves and showed it float. Sasuke copied her and turned his eyes off and said, "HN." Naruto said, "Yeah, I just wanted to review both while we wait. You know, a dobe like me needs all the help he can get," as he smiled and tried to get the leaf to float on his head while he stood on a tree. Both Sakura and Sasuke ignored him. A few hours later, Kakashi showed up and saw Sakura fawning over Sasuke and Sasuke ignoring her, and he saw Naruto and his Kijunshins all standing on trees, and he thought, so he figured that out, and said, "Well everyone, I just came by to tell you all that I nominated you all for the Chonan exams and that you have to turn in these forms on Friday at 3 p.m. at room 301 in the academy. You each have to sign these forms and show up at that time. Remember, this is a choice you each have to make, so good luck, and you have until then to get ready, and you will not have any missions. Good luck and see you," as he left in a puff of smoke after handing each their forms. Sakura said, "So Sasuke-kun, want to go and train together?" Sasuke said, "No, you are weaker than Naruto," as he walked away. Sakura looked at Sasuke and Naruto said, "Sakura, if you want we can train together." Sakura said, "No Naruto. Why won't you learn? I don't like you," as she stormed away. Naruto sighed and said, "You also cousin," as he looked at the sky and then went to get something to eat. As he was walking he saw Team 8 walking and said, "Hey guys, how's it going?" Kiba said, "Hey Dobe, what you doing here?" Naruto said, Well, I was just coming from training, what about you guys?" Shino said, "We were also practicing." Hinata said, "Hello Naruto-kun," in a stuttery voice. Naruto said, "Hey Hinata. Dog boy here being nice to you." Kiba growled and Naruto ears twitched and sighed and said, "Well, I got to go guys. Sire." As he ran off down the road. When he made it around the next corner he said, "I know you're Thea Konohamaru, come on out," as he turned and pointed to a box who explodes. Things went from there as Sakura showed up and she then charged after Konohamaru and then them meeting the Sansibs. Sasuke then shows up and they trade names. Naruto looked at Gaara and thought, there's something off about him, as he walked away. A little later Naruto was walking toward Ichirukas when Anko appeared in front of him and said, "Come with me Gaki." Naruto said, "What?" Anko said, "Come on. I promise I won't bite," as she led Naruto away. When Naruto followed her she stopped on a training ground and said, "Alright Gaki, I want you to spar with me. I want to see your taijutsu. I also want you to create around 20 Kijunshins and have them circle around us and watch both you and me looking for openings in each of our styles and see if they can find things to improve. No fighting for them. Just you and me." Naruto nods and asked, "Why are you helping me?" Anko said, "I got my own reason. That's all you need to know, now here I come," as she went to punch him. Naruto was soon fighting but found he was only on the defensive. He never could take the offensive. After about 20 minutes of this Anko stopped and said, "Alright Gaki, dispel the Kijunshins." Naruto nods and dispels them and she waited a moment and said, "Okay, what did you see about your fighting?" Naruto said, "I suck." Anko snorts and said, "True, but you're flexible, your speed sucks but you have good battle instincts. Probably from all the attacks when you were younger. Anyways, I say you can learn what I want to teach you." Naruto smiled and said, "Really?" Anko held her hand up and said, "Yes, now you are not to say anything during this training. You are to do as I say without question. Understand?" Naruto nods and Anko smiled and said, "Alright, I want you to make 50 Kijunshin and I want you and them to each go through the kata I show you." Naruto quickly made them and Anko started a kata. She saw each of them watching her and then she said, "Okay, now you repeat what you saw. I will correct each I see doing it wrong, now begin." Each of them got busy and after 2 hours Naruto had the first kata down perfect after dispelling the clones. Anko smiled and said, "Very good, now fight me using what you just learned," as she attacked him. Naruto went through the kata and then at the end he actually managed to get a glancing hit on Anko's arm. Anko smiled and said, "Good, now I want you to follow these hand seals," as she showed him 10 hand deals. Naruto copied them and suddenly he felt like he fell to the ground. Anko said, "Good job Gaki, You just put on a weight genjutsu that only Anbu know. I won't tell you how to dispel it until the day of the Chonan exam, so get used to wearing it. Now that is all for the day. You have 4 days to learn 4 more katas. I want you to practice your chakra control as well as these kata in the morning. After lunch I will find you and show you the next kata. If you can learn the first 3, then I will teach you water walking as well. Got it? Naruto nods and said, yes Anko-sensei. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.